Our priorities for Africa, for African people in particular, is we we've seen these talks go on and on forever and forever. We need action because it is not only the fact that the latest report from IPCC is bringing to light the glaring fact that it's man-made, man is contributing effectively to this climate crisis, but it's also to the fact that the earth itself is talking, and it's been talking for over the ages. The unfortunate thing here is that what we are seeing is business as usual. People are negotiating as if it's something, a bargain across the counter. We're talking of lives. We're talking of an emergency, an earth emergency. We are not seeing that in these talks. We want to see the kind of action that is commensurate to the effects of climate change, an action that will cut emissions so that we will not continue to have this kind of situation. Especially, we know that African countries, developing countries in general, are already suffering from climate change. It's not something that is going to happen in future. It's already happening, and we want something to be done. We know that thing that needs to be done. Cutting the emissions, bringing the technology that will help these countries cope with the effects of climate change, and also build their economies in a way that is safe for the environment.
Given that those demands, are you disappointed with the progress of these talks? Japan has reduced its emissions target, and there doesn't seem to be much progress on loss and damage.
Yeah, it is very shocking, I must say. It's shocking to understand that some countries that should have been making progress from where we have been are instead going behind. If you put your emissions to 3.5, there's emission reductions to 3.5 based on 2005. Not even talking of 1990 levels. This is confusion, and it's very frustrating. At the end of the day, the effective emissions will be nothing. There will be nothing, and we'll continue to suffer this crisis. It is unfortunate again that at a moment when we are seeing effects of climate change, we are seeing visible pictures, glaring pictures of what it is doing to people, we can afford to step back. It's unfortunate. But we think that the countries can still come together and do something. And don't get us wrong, Africa is not asking for sympathy. Africa is not asking for sympathy. Africa is demanding justice. Because there's a problem, we know who has caused it, when it was caused, and we know the solution. And one of the solutions is bringing the money on the table for these people to cope with the effects of climate change, because they're already suffering from it. It's not something that will happen in future. It's already happening and will only be increasing according to sciences.
Are you willing to walk out of these talks?
Walk out is an option, but we don't think that walk out will be the best option. Why should we walk out? Can we be pushed to walk out? No, we have to be there and keep demanding for justice, because whatever is just and fair, whatever is the truth, can sail slowly, but it must arrive. Somewhere, somehow, somebody knows that there is injustice that is being caused to developing countries, and that injustice should be addressed. And now, we're also asking for the good thinking, good citizens of the developed countries to hold their leaders responsible and say, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Injustice to developing countries is a threat to justice even in developed countries. We can't live in a world where injustice is glaring and we afford to pretend that it's not there. It is a threat to everybody, to mankind, and we need to do something.
It all sounds quite well and good in theory, but ministers coming here have political mandates back home, and you say you're asking for justice, but you're also asking for money. I mean, what practical solutions are you putting forward?
Well, we know how climate change is affecting our agricultural systems, the health systems, even educational systems. It is not something that we'll be going to look for it elsewhere. We know the sectors that are being affected the worst, like the small agricultural sector. The farmers are affected in a big way. There are diseases, endemism of diseases that has approached many communities that governments are coping with funds that they don't even have. So we need the money to do those things, to help those communities come out of poverty and then face the consequences of climate change, which are enormous depending on the agroecological zone you find yourself. So we think that our ministers come here because they know what Africa wants. They had a meeting in Gaborone, African Ministerial Conference of recent, and their position is very clear. We pray that they should stick to that position because that is what the truth is. It is science-based. It is what will take Africa out of this climate crisis, and by extension, other developing countries. And I know that they have positions that are clear.
Do you have any red lines at this conference?
Well, any solution that will not make the poor to pay is what we want. You know, the thing is it normal that you set fire on my house and sell me the technology to put the fire off? It's not normal. Is it normal that you set fire on my land and give me a loan to rebuild the land? No. Somebody has to pay for it, because not only because they have done that, set the fire, which we are not blaming them for, but because they have the capacity and they have the duty to see that that fire is put off. And we think that the African position is science-based, and it is what we need for Africa, and we want our ministers to stick to that position.